Man, it's always best case scenario with a reread when you, if anything, enjoy it more and just appreciate what's being done even more. And that was definitely my experience here. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about The Warded Man by Peter V. Brett, the first book in the Demon Cycle. Now, this is going to be more of like a spoiler review and discussion type of thing because this is a reread for me. I've talked about this book and series before, and if you've not read it, you can check out the series Spotlight I did where I talk about a lot of the stuff non-spoiler-wise about this series. But here I just want to talk about the first book because after finishing my reread, I just remember all of the reasons that I really enjoyed this, and I just think the way so much of this is done was just so smart and so well done and such a really big draw. And I mean, honestly, it's like not even maybe halfway through chapter 2, and immediately I'm just like, yeah, this I remember exactly why I was hooked and ended up binging the series before, and I'm really excited to continue with the series now. And a lot of that comes down to starting with the core premise here, because we're in this world where every night at night, or if it just gets dark enough because it's cloudy, demons start coming up from the core of the earth. They're just coming up in this mist, and they are just vicious, and there's really nothing you can do to stop them. And so humanity at night is all reliant upon having wards that keep the demons away. And you have to always check the wards. If the wards go bad, the demons will be able to get in and just destroy you. And there are fire demons that might burn your town down. There are, wood demons and rock demons and all kinds of just different ones that will just destroy you. And so your life completely depends on having really safe wards at night. And it sets up, because of that, it means if you're traveling anywhere that you can't get to by dark, it's incredibly dangerous. And so for the most part, people don't. There are there are messengers which come from the dukes of these different places and set up there, and some other few people who actually travel and have like portable ward circles they set up to keep themselves safe, but it's still incredibly dangerous. And also it's the world is a lot more wild because it's not very developed as well too. And I like the mentions that, you have to worry about the demons if you're just traveling through the wilds, but also there's wild animals, and all the weak ones are killed off by the demons. So you have like the crafty, the strongest of the animals, they're the ones that survive. So it's things like that that just really set up the world so well, because it's this entire civilization has been completely dependent on the wards and this type of setup, and there's nothing that they can do. And there's talks that thousands of years ago there was a deliverer who came and they fought back against the demons. And there's talks as well too that there used to be science and some things like this as well, and that the world was more advanced for a while, but this all fell away because as more of that came on, people forgot about the demons because they were gone. They didn't think they were real anymore. And they forgot about the wards. And so it's now in this modern time, people have figured out some of the defensive wards, but there apparently used to be wards that could be used to fight, and like offensive wards, and nobody knows about them anymore. And all of this, just such a great draw. And I mean, granted, pretty much all of that's still not spoiler at this point here too. But it's just the way that that's done. Again, it's such a great premise, such a detailed premise, and it's believable. And it does some of the things like there's lots of fantasy that's done. There was this ancient civilization that had this technology, or we don't know how the magic works anymore. But it's specifically like the magic is so important when it's because you don't have it. Your entire life, your entire existence has to be centered around only traveling within where you can go, or not at all, because you can't ever be out when it's dark. And so it just does so many great things. And all of our characters here, because we're setting up 3 main characters, and the first couple of books do a lot of flashbacks and setting up different characters. But we're setting up our main characters, Arlen, Leisha, and Roger in this, and they all have their different run-ins with demons or other things in some cases as well with that type of thing. But it all comes down to fear and the idea of fear, and whether or not you're going to live in fear or you're going to go past it and embrace it. And that's also with the fact that it's dealing with these demons and these ideas is so strong. And literally it's so early on with Arlen, who is definitely the character that gets the most screen time in this first book, and he is the titular Warded Man. But seeing him where he's very young, and his father is, he thinks is a coward, and is just afraid to go out. And Arlen's less afraid. He's a kid. He just in some ways doesn't fully get it. But when something's happening and his mother and another person are in danger of being attacked by demons, he goes out to try and save her and sees his dad do nothing. And that is his absolute inciting incident, where he just can't imagine being that afraid that you wouldn't try to save a loved one. And then as they end up traveling, and his dad's like, oh, you know what, we're gonna travel to an herb gatherer further away, even though it means that we're gonna have to travel, which is normally something that he wouldn't even do. But they end up not making it because his dad's afraid to go on because he doesn't know if they'll make it to where they're going by dark, and so they end up stopping. And then Arlen's mom dies because of this. And now, granted, based on how bad the injuries are, was she probably going to die anyway? Yes, but can you imagine having that sort of experience as a child, and like how much that would mess you up? And that's exactly what happens, of course. And Arlen running off. I do love the setup, too, of him pretty much accidentally taking the arm off of this gigantic rock demon as well. And that's relevant later on also as well. But just, it's such a dark thing that's happening here. And the tone of the series is quite dark in general. But it's just this whole thing. And again, halfway through chapter 2, that kind of hook of just him trying to help and just being disgusted with his father. And that's what makes him determined to one day try to fight back and just not be afraid, at least, or not be ruled by his fear. And that's the setup there. You have, I'll loop back to Leisha, because Leisha is a little bit different, but you have Roger, who he is the son of somebody who owns an inn, and he's in a little bit more of a populous area as well. And that's also something that I think Brett does really well here. Is he shows you with the three different characters, they live in quite different areas, because Roger lives in an area where it's near enough to civilization that they have actual warders who that's their job, whereas Arlen is from the furthest out into the middle of nowhere, where they rarely even see messengers, and it's this tiny little hamlet, and everybody just does their own warding, helps each other out. That's the type of thing. Unleash is kind of in the middle. It's a little bit more on the way. It's, they will see people from the bigger cities within weekly, that type of thing. And so we see these different things and how differently things happen in these different areas in this world based on their proximity to civilization in general. But Roger, who is the setup there is a jongular who's staying there. He's just kind of like the minstrel type of people and characters that they go around telling stories and singing, and also some of the people that sometimes will travel with messengers going to the small towns as well. And which even then it's set up because when they go out there, especially if they haven't seen them for a while or they're not offering the best prices, it's meant as a distraction. So there's all of these layers to everything with it. But then, him, where demons end up breaking into the town because the warder had not been doing a very good job, and his family dies, and he's rescued by this jongular and taken in by him, but also he had a lot to do with Roger's parents not surviving, and literally pushes his mother out of the way, which comes back later, but sets him on the path of then becoming a jongular, and then we get to see him actually living within one of the cities as he comes in as well. And him following music, but also just dealing with the issues and the literal scars, these missing fingers going through there. And again, though, he had this up close and personal interaction with demons and seeing them, and then also ends up seeing some not great parts of humanity in the city as well. And as part of it, but going down sort of the music path. So he's our bard, we have our warrior, which is Arlen, and you got to have your healer, which I say it that way, although it's not really D&D-esque in the story, but Leisha. And Leisha's a little bit different because the demons that she's dealing with are the much more human kind for the most part, because she's dealing with her mother, who's a horrible person, and just also the kind of small town gossip and that type of thing. And her mother resents her because she wanted a son and was the only child that she got, and resents her husband because he's not the big manly guy that she really wanted, but she just is with him for his money because he's well-to-do instead of the person she wanted to be with, and is sort of the setup up there. And so it's Leisha who is navigating through, her adolescent years and then getting older and the prospects of marriage, which sound really great with the most handsome guy, Garrett, until he lies to the whole town and says that they slept together when they didn't. Really big deal in this town because people have been run out of town for that type of thing. And when that's happened, because it's that they actually have a tender who's like a minister, whereas like Tippett's book really doesn't as well. They're told like, oh, this is super wrong and not okay and that type of thing. And it's it's set up there with her having to deal with this and dealing with all of these people and the rumors and just kind of the horrible way that she's treated because of that. And this ends up kind of pushing her into the arms of Bruna, who's a very elderly herb woman or herb gatherer that they're called. She's supposed to be like one of the very best. And so she's teaching her how to do this, and she ends up kind of going off on her own as well. Now she does still have her run-in with demons where she's running away and trying to get to Bruna because she doesn't want to have to get married and forced to after all this happens, and just barely makes it and is attacked a bit by demons. So still has that kind of run-in, but hers are definitely more the human kind, which remains throughout. Like a lot of the things that she deals with in the series and in the first book specifically are more so humanity, the evils that can be offered there, but it also does have the contrast too, because she's mentioned something her father said, that no matter like how bad a person is, you look out the window at night and there's something worse because it's the literal demons you're dealing with. So I think it's a good analysis too on human behavior and how terrible humans can be. And is that still better because they're human, or would it be better if they were just the mindless evil things of the demons? And I think the idea that's presented by her father, I think is sort of then contradicted by some things in the narrative intentionally as we're exploring there, that humans can be worse and humans could do things with intent instead of being the mindless types of creatures. And so it's another thing that, again, we're exploring with the layers of this. Even though the demons are set up as this it's absolute evil, we see a lot of evil that men can do and people can do in general, that's much more so as we're seeing there. And so it's also, I think, just very compelling following all three of these characters. And we do then, I will say with this book, it was a little more jarring than I remember when we sort of jump forward in time, because we start with flashbacks and we're kind of seeing what's happening over the first few years, but then we do like a nice jump of like 7 years where then all the characters are older and further along in where they're going. Leisha is now very accomplished herb gatherer in her own right. Roger is still an apprentice, but nearly ready to be confirmed as like his own jongular. And Arlen has now become the warded man after we start to just see where that's gone. There's still a lot of things that we haven't had fully explained yet, and we'll get more flashbacks for some new characters that we saw only briefly in the first book. There are some flashbacks for different characters in the next one, but also there's more you'll get a backstory of these characters still as well. But it's just like, what a hook for these characters, and that's kind of the big thing that this book does. It's just there's so much that happens, and then there's some really good action, and like the ending of it I think is really well done too. But it's just more so this is setting up these characters, their backstory, their run-ins with the night, with demons, and with the worst of what the world can throw at them, how they deal with it, and they're all broken in many ways, but it's how they come out and become stronger going through the fire, and in Roger's case literally, because there was a fire at the end, but going through the fire and just like being reborn. And that's sort of the idea that we're looking at here with all of the characters, is having things that they're these hugely traumatic things and then coming through the other side. Now I will say, and I don't know if, because I did the audio for this reread. I read the whole series physically on freaking mass market paperbacks, but I did this largely audio just because I was curious, but also I have these nice hardcovers to read from now, so I can do a little bit of that too, because I didn't want to have to try and reread the series in mass market paperback, which is what I originally had. One of the reasons I wanted to do a reread to begin with. But I did some audio on this one too, and so the one particular scene, and there is more, because the big knock I think on a lot of this is Brett does use a bit too much sexual violence and that type of thing in the series overall, which you see in this book and others. But I feel like the one particular scene was not to the extent that I remember it being, and so I don't know if it just was I remembered it as being worse. It's still like it's there, but it felt a little bit more off screen. So maybe we revisit it later. I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I read the series, but so I'm curious. I actually meant to go back and look to see if it was different or not in the audio. I'm not really sure. But there's just this is one of those things where there's some of those elements obviously not a fan of, and there is some some other just like general sexual content too in the series. It's just not necessarily for me, and there are other things that I have that are nitpicks about the books and the series here, but it's just there's so much really great stuff that's being set up, so much great stuff that's done, and this just rereading the first book just hooked me all over again. It reminded me of why I enjoyed the series and why it stuck with me so much, because while I have my complaints, and it's not probably going to end up being a favorite series of all time even on reread, it's a really strong series that I just think doesn't get talked about as much and isn't as much remembered, and there are some valid reasons why. I totally acknowledge that, but it's just there's so many really great things. I think Brett just did such a phenomenal job setting up this series with these characters, with the world, with the ideas and themes he's exploring in this first book, and even though it's a reread, I'm really excited to get to book 2 and to continue, which I will be doing next month, and then continuing on one book a month. So yeah, I had a really good time with this. I wanted to talk a little bit more about it because I just think there's so many great things that are done in this first book. But really, though, those are my thoughts. So let me know if you have any thoughts on that. If you've read this, I imagine if you just watched a whole spoiler video, you probably have read it. But I'm just talking about things that a lot of the more inciting incidents versus the stuff later, because those are kind of the big things. But there's there's a lot of just great stuff here, and I'm excited to continue on and talk more about it. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts. Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to give the video a like as always. Check the links in the description for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.